Alright, so, now I leveled this build roughly, well, 1 day ago, exactly 24 hours ago, level 86 already. Which is, funnily enough, how long it took me the first time to get through the campaign. So to go through the entire campaign took me roughly 22 hours, 1 day-ish. And now I'm 86, so obviously this went a lot smoother. As far as, this build and how it works and everything like that, I yoinked this from Skadoosh, and basically it's a very simple build at its core, with a lot of tech to make it actually function as good as possible, and it can definitely be improved, I think, because we're finding out new items and new combinations all the time. But basically, the core of the build is Corrupting Cry. Now, Corrupting Cry scales 25% of your strength as physical damage per second. And what this means, and it obviously stacks to 10 as well. So what this means is you basically have, you're basically a strength stacker, right? The more strength you have, the more base damage you get. And so our entire tree is built around stacking strength, right? So we have things like polymathy, we have brute strength, beef, right? A bunch of like random strength nodes, the strength here, just strength, right? Strength on every piece of gear as well. And we end up right now with 731 strength, which gives us a lot of damage. Now here's the really cool part about this build. Strength is also life in PoE 2. A lot of life, like 4 times the life scaling of PoE 1. So this amount of strength ends up giving me, as you can see, a whopping 3.4k life. Now, in order to apply Corrupting Blood, right, obviously it works with cries, war cries. So we use Seismic Cry. Now, Seismic Cry is good for a few reasons. Number one is it has no cooldown with the Warbringer Ascendancy, or if you don't stun, which I'll get into that, I'll mention that later, because there is some potential tech for a new class. But anyway, you combine Seismic Cry, which has an 8-second cooldown normally, and you bypass this with the Warbringer Ascendancy, which ignores Warcry cooldowns, which allows you to do this. Right? And you can see, look at the AoE on this, right? It hits like, it's massive, like actual PoE 1 AoE, right? And you use that to apply the Corrupting Blood stacks. And I don't have an exact DPS number for you. I guess it's not too hard to calculate. Yeah, I guess it's 16k DPS because it's just times 10. Not including, any debuffs or anything like that. So 16k DPS just off Corrupting Blood alone. And because it's a damage over time effect, it's up permanently, right? So there's no, like, even if you're dodging or kiting or anything like that, it will continue to do damage, and you can just refresh it by casting once, right? And that will be enough, even in tier, like, 17s or 18s, like, it goes all the way up, right? That's enough to clear all the trash easily. And here's the really fun part. This Ascendancy also gets War Caller's Bellow, which gives 25% fizz pops, which we scale using things like damage per, increased damage, physical damage, stuff like that. And that allows us to pop 1 corpse to pop the entire screen. So if you do things like Breach or Expedition, it's so nice, right? Now, that alone, right, sounds cool. You've got like Giga AoE, right? You just shout, it's damage over time, right? Super high uptime, all that kind of stuff. You've got pops and everything. But now here's the crazy part. Seismic Cry also knocks backs like a ton, and it also stuns like a lot, right? It has Giga Stun buildup. So it actually basically perma-stuns everything, including bosses. Even bosses that I didn't even think could be stunned, right? Because we actually do scale stun from like things like Titanic and Hulking Smash and whatnot. So we have Giga AoE stun, knockback, screen-wide AoE, and corpse pops. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, 18k DPS sounds kind of low, right? Right? Keep keeping in mind, that's good for trash, right? I can kill white mobs, magic mobs, I can even kill rare monsters in the highest tier content in the game. But how do I kill bosses? Because if I just had to sit here spamming 16k DPS, it would take a long time to kill a boss. Like, that actually would take a while. Bosses have about, between 1 and 3 million HP, right? So how do you kill a map boss at this highest tier of content, right? And I do want to point out, by the way, you can kill bosses all the way up to about tier 10 maps easily with just a shout. But here's the beauty of it. in Path of Exile 2, right? If you're following along at this point, this is so fucking cool. And it's, by the way, again, this is the really 5-head part that is not, I don't think I could have come up with this on my own because I barely understand the system. But in Path of Exile 2, you have something called weapon sets. And what that means is I can shout on my weapon set 1 with a shield, right? And so now I have 74 block, right? 1 off cap, a bit annoying, but whatever. And so I have a bunch of shield nodes, right? Which you might see. But you might also notice, instead of being the normal, you know, gold or yellow, it's red, right? Now that means it's in weapon set number 1. So I have all my shouts and all my shield nodes on weapon set 1. But then on weapon set 2, I have an entirely different set of weapons and passives. So you can see now we've activated totems. Now, the really cool part about this is all you need for this is +6, well, it goes up to 7, but you just need all level of melee skills, and this gives you a totem, right? That's level 30 right now, right? And this will go higher. Obviously, you could get +1 on the corruption. It goes up to level 20 gem. I could get level 7 weapons, +2 on gloves. So I could scale this even more. I could get something like 2, 3, 4, 5 extra levels, right? Which would be a huge amount of extra damage, by the way. And you can see the effect this has on the build's damage. 111 to 167. 445 to 667. Right? So that's all you need. I mean, you could min-max this gear a little bit better. Like, you could put some stat on there, like something, but that's basically all you need, right? And what will happen is with the weapon set passives, as you can see, right? I can summon the totems like this, right? And then it'll automatically swap back to my shield. And that will snapshot. As you can see, I have 3 totems out, and I've got my shout nodes back. And this all happens automatically thanks to the weapon swap system, which is amazing. Does weapon call matter? Nope, because the totems do not use your weapon. Do you reckon the snapshotting will get killed? Nope, that's entirely, it's not just intentional, it's mandatory. It has to snapshot. It has to. You don't need to click X? Correct. Watch this, you ready? Watch this. Hand off my keyboard. It's automatic. How cool is that? So all you have to do is make sure you've selected, I'm in the way a bit, but you need to make sure you select weapon set 2 for your totems, right? And then everything else, like all your other shouts, are weapon set 1, right? Weapon set 1. That's it. And it'll automatically switch between totems and shouts. Totems, shouts. And remember, chat, remember, this is also swapping all your passives out. Effectively, this build has managed to fit in max block, all that shout nodes on the tree, and all a full totem set, like 24 points or 23 points into damage for totems. So I have everything. Yeah, how amazing is this build, right? And now here's the really, really 5-head part. You might be thinking like, okay, cool, you have totems, right? This is the like cinema part, right? Seismic Cry also detonates the totems because the totems are actually using Earth Shatter, which creates spikes, which if you're familiar with Path of Exile 1, they get detonated when you Warcry, which deals giga damage. Yeah, actually so 5-head. And this all happens automatically. Like, you don't have to like, this sounds like a lot is happening, but all you do is you throw down 3 totems and then you just shout, and that's it. And you don't even have to spam shout. You can just click once or twice every second, like, that's it. So, anyway, to go over the defenses and offenses of the build, like I said, the Corrupting Cry itself does like maybe roughly 20k at in-game. The totems themselves do, if I had to take a guess, like 80 to 160k. They do much more damage than they do way more damage than the Corrupting Cry. So I have giga good single target thanks to the totems. Not like quite one shot every boss in the game single target, but very, very good. I have giga good clear, pops, massive AoE, max block, giga armor, like just baseline 6.4k, but I also have plating, which gives me another like 60% more, no, 70% more. So yeah, actually like 10k armor, max block, res is fantastic. I need a tiny bit more fire and a tiny bit more chaos, but very, very good. Giga high life, and my gear, I mean, my rings don't have life on them, right? My gloves have 38 life. Like, there's definitely room for improvement. I'm still using the weapon I got at level 30. Like, this definitely could be a little bit better, although weapons are a bit weird on this build. And yeah, you also have life on kill. You have no mana as well, right? So you don't have to use a freaking mana flask. How nice is that? Like, there's so many quality of life things. You also get to use shield rush or charge and leap slam. The leap slam is really slow, but it can be used to go over like ledges and stuff. So you got 2 mobility skills for quality of life. And I haven't talked about Infernal Cry, but this also gives you rage and daze, which makes it easier to stun. So you've got at least I think that's what it does. But yeah, actually incredible build. And this is I still haven't done my Uber Lab because it's supposed to be bugged. It's a bit weird. And that brings me to my last point. I also run armor break, so obviously the totems can do more damage then. Yeah, in terms of Uber Lab, I would probably go either Imploding Impacts or Jade Heritage. I'm not sure which one would be better. You could also maybe go Renly's Training and then not need a block roll on your shield, which could be kind of smart depending on the shield you want to run. So there's definitely like some like options to do with Uber Lab, but and like I said, I'm sure there'll be tech and things we'll discover, and there's so much to like think about. You know, we've just discovered Defiance of Destiny and Ascendancy exist, and this died below, and I even mentioned at the start, right? You could maybe not use this Ascendancy because Seismic Cry doesn't go on cooldown if you don't stun, so you could maybe not stun on purpose and then get Gemling Ascendancy or Titan Ascendancy. So there's a whole bunch of theory crafting to do, but a beautiful fucking character. Absolutely beautiful. I'm super happy I rolled this build. And yeah, obviously, just to give you an idea of the tank, 2 deaths, 0 after I swapped. Those 2 deaths were leveling, which is by far and away the worst part of the build. So you can start playing this build, probably in SSF even, at level 41. But the question is, how do you get to 41 on a warrior? The answer? Painfully. Leveling a warrior seems to be quite brutal. Especially if I was going to do SSF hardcore. You've seen Quinn, he's been trying to level a warrior for a long time now. I think he's on 100 hours since the league launch, and he's still not made it through Act 3. So warrior leveling seems really, 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 really rough. In terms of what I did though, I just did Earthquake and Perfect Strike. I did try out a few different melee skills to level. They were all awful. Now, there's 2 options that maybe you could try that would be better. One is Shockwave Totem. It's supposed to be quite nice. This recommended it to me after the fact. Like, I didn't know at the time that it was decent. And then the second option is screw melee, right? Screw Warbringer, screw Warrior. Just literally get a Pillar of the Cage Guard. You're going to run strength stacking anyway. So what you do is you go Pillar of the Cage Guard and just level with Monk skills instead. Because Monk skills are going to be better than whatever dog shit you've got on Warrior, sadly. So yeah, either Shockwave leveling or maybe Pillar of the Cage Guard. Just make sure if you level with Pillar of the Cage Guard, you also pick up a Mega Nords for a bunch of strength scaling early on. So you might be thinking now at this point, okay, this sounds all great, right? How expensive is the gear? Now this is the beautiful part. Absolutely naked. The only damage on my entire character is strength, right? Like, I don't have any, like, damage nodes or attack speed nodes. My damage on my weapon doesn't matter. There's no, like, there's nothing. So the only damage I get, and this is only for my, Corrupting Cry, the only damage is strength, right? So if I take off all my gear, I still have 391 strength. So I still have the majority of my damage. I can literally, in theory, do a map with this damage. I would die, because, you know, 60 minus res omega lol. But, in theory, I have 60% of my damage still. 60%. I'm still like, how many builds can you say fully naked are 60% operational? So the gear is not doing as much damage-wise as it is tank. That's the big point I want to make. Like, it's not damage that you get, it's tank. So you just need, plus level of melee skills in your, totem weapon slot. Your main hand is just strength. The only stat on here that I actually care about is strength. The life on kill is nice as well, but you get that anyway from rebirth runes, so you don't really need the 38 life on kill on the actual stat. And then the stun build up, I'm not sure if that's local. It might be local. I haven't found out yet. But the only thing I care about on there really is just the strength. So my weapon does not matter at all. Like, it's really bad. I have been theory crafting to figure out replacements. I was looking into spirit main hands instead, because I don't actually think this is the correct play. But yeah, like I said, still a work in progress. In terms of the rest of the gear, like I said, this ring, none of the stats, none of the prefixes do anything. It's just strength and res. That's it. Same with this one. My gear's actually really shit. These rings were like, I need to replace them. And I will replace them. My amulet's not actually bad. This one is life, strength, and res with armor. This one's actually nice. Like this one a lot. My shield, I found this myself. You do not need a shield this good, and there's a reason for it. So, technically speaking, the res is wasted because when you weapon swap, you don't weapon swap back automatically, like instantly. So you can see, I actually don't get the res on the shield on my offhand. So ideally, in hindsight, you shouldn't have any res on the shield at all, right? Because technically you want to be capped without it. It's okay if you don't, because I've never actually died to weapon swapping. But it's just something to keep in mind that technically speaking, when you're spamming your totems, you don't have your shield equipped, right? So you lose all the res on there, which is very important to note. But yeah, the most important stat on here is the block chance, for those of you who are wondering. You really want that block mod, because that is what's giving me 74 block, right? Then obviously boots, just generic life, strength, movement speed, res. These are very nice. These boots were also about 5 exalts, and you might be thinking, how's that possible? I exalted on the life after buying them. So these weren't supposed to be nice boots. I got lucky. But I do want to reiterate, most of your life is coming from your strength. So even naked, I still have a lot of life, okay? So you don't actually need a single life roll on your gear, because the life rolls themselves are only contributing maybe like 500 life. So I'd still have 2.9k life without any life on my gear, which would make it really, really cheap, by the way. Because you just need strength and res then, right? Now this belt is nuts. I leveled with the Mega Nords and I wasn't planning on swapping, but I realized Mega Nords is not that good and I needed the Chaos Res. So this belt was 20x. One of my better pieces of gear for sure. That Flask Recovery Applied Life mod, the implicit, is actually nuts, by the way, because you are actually able to use the Recover Life from Mana mod Flask, which, as you can see, my Life Flask heals for 2.1k. So that means with this belt, my Life Flask instantly heals me for 400, and I get 1600 life over 3 seconds on top. So this is like really, 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 really nice for recovery. And then yeah, my gloves are shit. These gloves were also not very expensive. Again, just strength and res, right? You can see what I was going for here though. I really wanted a lot of chaos res, and I didn't care about as much about life. Because normal builds, right, they rely on those life rolls on gear, but I just don't. I have so much strength. This strength is giving me nearly 1500 life. So I don't need the life rolls nearly as much. Min-maxing you would, but, you know, obviously getting a pair of gloves like this with like 138 life would cost 20 times as much, 30 times as much. And then I have a Black Sun Crest. This is the only unique on the build, and it's like 4 exalts or something. I did get lucky and corrupt this. I was like, screw it, I'm gonna corrupt it, YOLO, and I hit +1 socket, which is great. But obviously not needed. The big thing here is you need that strength roll, that 15% strength roll. Because this helmet alone gives me like 85 strength, which is huge. And then finally, my chest. Because we are stacking armor, and because we have sturdy metal, with because we have sturdy metal, this chest is giving me like, yeah, like 4.5k armor. So the chest armor is the most important thing. I wouldn't care about life at all. So I would just try to get strength, res, and armor. That's it. And that's the gear. That's it. Also, a notable mention for gear, actually, is jewels. Now, there's a lot of utility mods on jewels that you can get. You don't have to get, like, the god tier, like, double damage jewels. And I don't even have a single one like that. So what I did was I just got any good stats at all, right? So this has got damage with maces, rage when hit by an enemy, and Warcry damage. Warcry damage does scale your corrupting blood, by the way. which is very important. You can see I got like weapon swap speed, armor, totem placement speed. Like there's so many utility mods that are basically free. Like every single jewel I bought for about 1 to 2 exalts, because if you just go for utility stats with like maybe 1 damage mod, they all cost like nothing, right? They're very, 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 very cheap. Easy. I got like block, Warcry speed, like very, very, very cheap, very, very cheap. And yeah, that's like pretty much everything. I guess I'll go over gem links real quick. So I did just get a 6th link today, just now actually. So on Seismic Cry, obviously you need Corrupting Cry to actually play the build. Then Brutality is just raw dog, 35% more, and Inspiration, because you do need to spam this, and you can see the life cost is quite high. So the Inspiration really helps with that. And then Swift Deflection for 35% more on top. So this is your 5 link. The 6 link I just got now is more AoE, and this is just like cherry on top. Like just having 40% more AoE is nuts. Yeah, so someone mentioned as well, my life isn't moving. Now the reason for that is something clever. So obviously, how do I sustain 81 life 4 times a second? That's 320 life. That's 10% of my life pool, right? Like, how do you sustain that? And the answer is Urgent Call. This gives you 2% of your life and mana when you Warcry, and this allows my Warcry to basically be free. You can see I can hold it down, and even on a 6th link, it barely moves. Now, you can see I've got some auras, Overwhelming Presence, and Scavenging Plate with some quality of life supports, you know, skill effect duration, +1 fizz, vitality, and cannibalism to, again, help with that sustain, right? So we have regen and cannibalism from life on kill. And then we have shield charge, right? Stomping ground doesn't really matter, by the way. This is just, it just looks cool. Don't need this. And then leap slam, just to, like, jump over ledges. Then the last thing would be the Warrior Totem itself. Again, this is scaling with Earth Shatter, which you detonate with the Seismic. And then Upheaval for extra fishes to detonate. We have Martial Tempo for more attack speed. And then Heavy Swing for even more damage at the cost of attack speed. 6th link, I believe, I think you just use like a damage while bleeding support, because you do get passive sources of bleed from things like jewels. You could also socket it on the weapons, right? But yeah, I'll have to look into the 6th link. Yeah, Bloodlust, that's right, Bloodlust. I have Life on Kill on my weapon, and I have Life on Kill from my aura, and that allows me to have enough sustain while mapping to be topped up permanently. I never have to Life Flask unless I'm doing like some super rippy shit, or if I'm spamming my totems down. It can be nice, because these actually do cost a lot. Now, the reason why they cost so much is because they're level 30. So they cost nearly 400 life. Like I said, the life flask I have is pretty strong. So thankfully, if you just put down the 3 and life flask, you'll be fine. Can you run a map? Yep, I can do a map. That actually might kill me. YOLO.
Fear will best you!
What's the shimmer on the mobs? That is called Overwhelming Presence. You can get rid of Overwhelming Presence if you don't like the visual of it. Well, all that does is it reduces the stun threshold. So it makes them easier to stun. So I don't think it's technically mandatory. Like, there are other auras you could use in place of it. Especially if you have more spirit on your chest or something. But you can see what I mean about those pops. Okay, well, levers are stupid. Hey, at least you know the build's tanky enough to survive a red map with minus max extra damage fire. Chaos Spitters just shitting on me the entire time. Do you care about armor at all? Yes, yes you do. People who say armor is bad, armor is bad, but it's still like, it's still a hell of a lot better than not having armor. You know what I mean? Like, when they say it's bad, they mean it doesn't make them immortal. That's all they mean. Oh, come on. I thought that was gonna kill me. I guess it didn't.
Ancestors! Meat creature!
Yeah, I will say armor is a lot better when you have 10k armor. Like, I bet you the people that have, but I bet you the people complaining about armor probably only have like 3k armor or something. Or 2k armor. It's definitely noticeable as hell at 10k. Very, very noticeable. Does attack speed scale leap slam? Yeah. Yep.
Hail! Taking on some serious danger, I think.
Alright, you ready for this? Now this right here, if I don't die, will be my favorite part of the build. Look at that. Like, flawlessly does it. Doing things like breaches, expeditions, rituals are just crazy on this build. Because they have so much density, this build is a density destroyer thanks to the corpse life scaling.